Washington Bureau Chief Ryan Brim. Ruth Marcus is columnist for the Washington Post. Good morning.
Morning, Chris.
So you have what have been overwhelmingly positive headlines on health care and the 7.1 million sign up. A huge turnaround in how much momentum the president is carrying today. I mean, look, we've got this new poll from Quinnipiac that shows people are pretty evenly split. In fact, a little bit favoring the Democrats there, Ryan, on who they would vote for in congressional races. Has the momentum shifted?
I think it certainly has shifted, and we'll see, how deeply this penetrates and whether candidates start running towards Obamacare instead of away from it with this good news here. But it's kind of a remarkable state of affairs in American politics, where we're actually having fundamental discussions about what kind of a society do we want here. Talking about health care and wages is quite a departure from the American political system is used to. So, we're asking the question, if you get laid off, should that be a death sentence? Do you need a job to have it to be tied to health care? And if you work full time, if you put in 40 hours, do you deserve some modicum of dignity, or should you be living in poverty? I mean, right now, the federal minimum wage leaves you in poverty, and even the proposal coming from some moderate Democrats of $9 an hour, that would still leave them in poverty. So these are some really basic questions that the system's grappling with.
Yeah, even some of the states that have raised the minimum wage to $10.10, that's over a period of years. It doesn't happen immediately. So you've got health care and minimum wage with the midterms looming. The latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll shows 58% of voters are more likely, Ruth, to support a candidate who supports raising the minimum wage. But your colleague Kathleen Parker writes today that the Democrats are acting desperately. Quote, "This is not exactly a paradigm-shifting strategy. Minimum wage debates are sort of like funeral suits. You keep them handy for those glum times when respect for dying ideas must be paid." To that point, are the Democrats putting too much emphasis on this?
Well, too much emphasis compared to what? Let's go back to health care for a second. 7.1 is a heck of a lot better than 6.1 or whatever, but I think that the notion that candidates are going to start running towards Obamacare instead of away from it, especially those endangered Senate Democrats in reddish states, that might be a little over-optimistic from the Democratic point of view. So then the question is, if Obamacare is still going to be something of a drag, which I'm afraid it's going to be in certain states, what is the kind of thing that can help Democrats get their voters motivated, help get them to the polls? Minimum wage is, raising the minimum wage is substantively a good idea, and politically, because substantively it's not going to happen, it's not going to get past the House, but politically, a darn good thing to be running on. So I have to respectfully disagree with my colleague Kathleen Parker.
Well, let me go back to health care for a second, and to your point, and if you listened to the president yesterday, which I know you did, it did seem like he was also thinking about his legacy. Listen to this.
In the end, history is not kind to those who would deny Americans their basic economic security. Nobody remembers well those who stand in the way of America's progress or our people. And that's what the Affordable Care Act represents.
Ryan, health care is obviously an undeniable part of the president's legacy, but will it also be judged by whether Democrats can hold on to the Senate? Republicans have been pretty blatantly daring the president to go to places like Louisiana and Arkansas, where the Mary Landrieu and Mark Pryors are in tough races.
No, I think the Democrats can lose the Senate, and that won't have a huge effect on Obamacare's legacy 10 or 20 years from now, because the president is still going to be the president for another 2 years, so they're not going to have any opportunity to repeal it. And the way that the Democrats' national coalition is built, it's leaning towards them holding the White House again for the next 4 years, which means they have very little opportunity to roll it back. And if you take a state like Kentucky, for instance, sure, I don't think Grimes, the Democratic candidate, wants Obama to come in there. His approval rating in Kentucky is probably in the 30s, but almost half of the uninsured in Kentucky have been insured as a result of Obamacare. That's a tremendous benefit to the people of Kentucky. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people who didn't have insurance who now have it, and McConnell has made the centerpiece of his campaign that he wants to repeal it. So he's going to have some awkward conversations with voters over the next couple months before November.
And the question's been raised many times by the Democrats.